going to have arguments. The question is, how are you going to argue? And that is why I'm filming this video. This is going to teach you as a man how to lead a conversation from being contentious, being an argument, to an intimacy building moment. Sounds impossible, I bet, for some of you. But I promise you it's not. In fact, the framework I'm about to share with you has changed the marriages, the lives of the men that I coach. So without further ado, let's dive in. I'm going to give you what I call a conversation flywheel that is going to improve your marriage or long-term relationship. So this is an acronym. It's called PAID 2. There's a little space right here. And PAID 2, we're going to go through it step by step, is going to help you understand what to do in a conversation, especially one where you might traditionally feel attacked. The first step is pause. Come on, pen. All right. Why is pause in here? This is nothing, right? But it is something. And the pause is there for a very good reason. As soon as you react, you are entering into the danger zone, because even a facial expression like, right? That type of reaction is going to be triggering. And so a more loving masculine way to handle a conversation is to just have normal face, okay? So no matter what's said, I want you to try and just keep your face normal. You don't react anymore, okay? You respond and you pause and you assess the situation. So whatever is said, you just keep that normal face. Inside your head, you might be doing a 3 count, a 5 count, because you're remembering, oh yeah, I'm going to respond to this situation using PAID 2. I'm not going to react, even though I might want to, fall into my old habits or whatever. So 3 to 5 seconds here on the pause. All right. And if you've ever been around I've been around some really smart people. They don't necessarily respond right away. They're not trying to get a word in edgewise, right? And it really actually makes you feel more in control if you're comfortable with the pause. And that's what we're trying to do here, is be comfortable. Some new things. In other words, be comfortable in what traditionally is uncomfortable. Okay, so just you're setting this pause up, or rather you're setting up the conversation with a pause. And I like to say go low and slow. So if she's animated, she's yelling or whatever, there's no reason, you don't have to match that tone. In fact, coming in low and slow, if somebody's kind of animated or heightened emotionally, will give them a signal that they need to kind of calm down. All right, so you raising your voice oftentimes just results in more escalation on their end, whereas you being low and slow is going to kind of eerily get them to calm down at times. Nothing's guaranteed. There's no silver bullets, but that's my recommendation. Okay, the next step is acknowledge. All right, this is huge. We're getting into the goods. Is that how you spell acknowledge? I believe so. Okay, so acknowledge is different than agreeing. If she comes to you and says something that you don't agree with, you don't have to agree with her, but you do have to acknowledge her feelings. And that is a special kind of phrase. So for example, if she says, "You don't care about me," how often have you heard that? Probably before, right? And you're just like, feels like everything I do in my life revolves around caring for you. That's how a lot of guys feel, right? So when she says, "You don't care about me," you don't agree with that, but you have to acknowledge that that's how she feels. Otherwise, conversation is not going to go anywhere. And we want to take care of this woman emotionally. We want to solve for, the issue, not in a fix it kind of a way, but we want to solve the underlying emotional issues. So you got to acknowledge. So that might look like, yeah, I can see how you might feel that way, right? Or I can see that, or I hear that, or I acknowledge that. When you say that, you're not agreeing. Me saying, I can see how you might feel that way, is simply empathizing with, yeah, you can see how they might feel that way, right? That doesn't mean you agree with it, but that's a way of acknowledging. You don't care about me. Okay. Don't care about you. Okay. So you could reflect and just repeat a couple of words there. It's okay, right? So the point is, you're not just going right into, what are you talking about? That kind of a thing. So you do that, you acknowledge. And by the way, I've had guys just focus on acknowledging for like an hour straight. And I'll tell you the craziest story. There was a guy who said, I think I sat there for, I think he said an hour and a half or something, having a real tough time for several months with his wife. He started acknowledging. He sat there, he's just like, I'm determined to acknowledge everything that she says, no matter what. The next day, and he thought, well, that was a big, that was a failure. But he hung in there, he didn't defend, all that stuff. The next day she comes up to him, this is his wife, says, I want to apologize for being a huge bitch to you for the last 3 years. Okay? So there is power in acknowledgement. Another guy had a conversation with his sister. I thought he'd try it out on his sister. And she said, this is the best conversation I've ever had with you. after he acknowledged. So there's power in it, guys. All right, the next step is inquire. Inquire is asking a question. You're inquiring, okay? Inquire is, this step is to ask an open-ended question. Difference between a closed-ended question and an open-ended question. What is it? Closed-ended question is going to be a yes or no answer. Do you like ice cream? Yes or no. How do you feel about ice cream is an open-ended way of asking the same question. What you want is for her to express her feelings and emotions and get them out. You want to have a relationship where emotions can come out. The more you do this and actually invite her to share her feelings and emotions, the less kind of animated or kind of crazy they will come out. But in the beginning, if you're new to this, be okay with a lot of animated responses. So inquire, what does that look like? You could say, remember, acknowledge. So yeah, I can see I might feel that way, or I see that, or I hear that. Tell me more. That's the simplest way of just inquiring. Tell me more, share more, say more. Okay, you want to get a little bit more advanced? Help me understand what you mean by that. What's behind that statement? How are you feeling right now? What are you feeling right now? Well, what was going on for you in that moment, right? So you can get a little bit more masterful with the open-ended questions. The most powerful person in the room is often the one asking the best questions. So one way to kind of take control, or I'll say leadership, control is kind of a dirty word in relationship, to take a proactive leadership position, asking truly, sometimes they come across as stupid questions or simple questions, but actually asking these types of questions, they take courage. And the other person, she will recognize that, and she's going to appreciate it, even though in the moment maybe she doesn't seem like she will, but she will. She's going to say a bunch of stuff. Now, here's where the money comes in, okay? This is called demonstrate. All right, demonstrate. This essentially means you're going to demonstrate you heard what she said. So you've got to reflect back, repeat back what she said. But I want you to use your brain and actually kind of lead her into what I would call an identity level conversation. Now, guys, I realize that this might sound really tough, but promise you, this is the step that so many guys aren't doing in their relationship. They need to be doing it, because until they do, she's not going to feel seen, heard, known, or accepted. And the reason separations, divorces happen is generally because both people in the relationship, 70% of separations are initiated by women. We can argue as to why that is, but I would argue that it's because a lot of them don't feel heard, okay? And guys like to fix problems, right? And so she's going to feel kind of unheard because you just go right into fixing. So if you learn this skill, it can really build connection and intimacy. So if, you know, she said, you don't care about me, you say, I can see I may feel that way, share more. And she goes, well, you know, you're always on your phone, and, you know, when it's time to go to bed, you got to do more work. And, you know, I'm just so, you know, just over it, whatever. Okay, so you might go, okay, it sounds like because I've been on my phone a lot and, you know, working a lot these days, you feel really alone and kind of unwanted. Is that right? Now, that probably is the case. Let's say you said something more like, oh, it sounds like you're really, you know, it sounds like me being on my phone makes you really upset, okay? More often than not, she's gonna go, no, that's not what I mean. It's really common for you to demonstrate and repeat back what you think you heard, and then her say, no, that's not what I mean. In which case, you really got to think of this as like a wheel, right? So pause, acknowledge, inquire, demonstrate. Okay, so you just go back up to pause, all right? Okay, fair enough, right? So you just acknowledge, fair enough. Okay, share a little bit more with me, because I'm not sure I totally understand at this point, right? So you say something like that, or, you know, well, can you share what's behind, you know, that, so that I can better understand. What I don't want you to do when you acknowledge is say, I understand. No, you don't. You do not understand. That's the problem. So many guys want to acknowledge by going, I understand. No, you do not. And the reason you're saying you understand is because you desperately want the conversation to end. And in a marriage relationship, you have to be comfortable with actually not understanding, asking questions so that you do understand. And you don't understand until you can demonstrate that you do. By repeating back what she said in a way that lets her know you get what she's saying. So if you say, oh, okay, it sounds like me being on my phone or being tied up with work makes you feel alone in, you know, handling the kids and stuff like that. Is that right? Yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay, great. Now you have permission to jump down to the close, if you will. And this is thank, and then we'll get into last step. So thank you. Thank you for sharing that. I had no idea. Really appreciate it. I want to be there for you and had no idea that this is how you're feeling. So appreciate you sharing what's going on for you, right? So you're being thankful, appreciative, and this feels good. This feels really good when you're at this step, okay? Because there's a special connection that happens here when two people feel heard, seen, known, that kind of a thing, okay? You're focused on her in this, but you can always come back and express how you're feeling after she feels heard. What I don't want you to do in this process is start advocating for your own needs and like defending yourself and stuff. You're just focusing on making sure she feels heard. Do a part 2 another time. If you need to come back and share what's going on with you, do it tomorrow. Do it when emotions are lowered, right? That's it for another video. Thank her, and then this is really the money step, okay? This is thank, and then this is offer. Wow, it's hard to write sideways, okay? It's the worst writing ever. Offer. You gotta make an offer. Hey, can I give you a hug? How many times have you had kind of a contentious conversation, argument, whatever, and you go your separate ways? Maybe you go on a drive or somebody locks himself in a room, it's icy. We're gonna start a new pattern. At the end, be the leader. Can I give you a hug? She might go, no, I don't want a hug, but you offered it. It's okay to make offers and get rejected, have your invitation rejected by her. She knows that you offered a hug, okay? Or let's go on a walk, or let's go sit down, have a glass of wine, and watch that Netflix show you've been talking about. The point is, don't end your conversations on a sour note, and I'm on a high note. Turn it into an intimacy building moment. And when you do this, you're going to normalize having arguments, healthy arguments. It may not be amazing right at the beginning, but you're always going to argue. If you use this type of roadmap, you're covering off on all the ingredients of a healthy, productive conversation. So if you need more help like this, these types of frameworks, roadmaps for difficult situations in relationship, give me a follow. You can also click the link somewhere in my bio. Reach out if you need more personalized help. There's a community and all sorts of free resources that you can tap into. All right, hope this helps.